Yo! Video games.
Okay, so this has been a long time coming for everyone coming in kind of later than than when this first aired. I've talked a long time about doing a rate the stages, and I think stages in fighting games are a really important part of a fighting game's identity. And I think the fighting game community, not to throw shade, but it feels like it's been kind of ignored, or rather, it doesn't get as much credit as I think it deserves. So we've done, obviously, with YoVideogames, we've done Rate the Finishers. But this is the start of a new series, and that is Rate the Stages. Because stages, I feel, they can tell a story of a fighting game where they may not have had ways to do that otherwise. Like back in the day, to tell the story of a fighting game, you had the instruction manual, and you could use the stages and whatever else you could pick up from character animations, and of course the endings if you could get to them. So this is a long time coming. Let's just say that, and I'm very happy to basically get this going here. So we're gonna rate these stages here, and see how it goes. And what better, honestly, what better place to start than Street Fighter 2, right? So we're gonna jump in here, and I'm gonna rate each stage. Now, so a couple of caveats. I am not going to be judging the stages by the entire spectrum of all video game stages of time. What I mean is, a CPS 1 board, which ran Street Fighter 2, is not going to be judged in the same way I would judge a CPS 3 board for the Street Fighter 3 series, or the ALF CPS 2 board for Alpha games. Like, I'm not going to be critical of a background not having as much animation or stuff going on when the hardware it was made for clearly wasn't capable of doing it. So, that's that in mind. We're going to judge it for its time. That's what we're gonna be. That's what we're gonna be going off of here. So for the time, did this work? And that's going to get a little bit more, I think, important in the future when we're talking about more modern day stuff. Where, like, if a fighting game had a big budget, or at least was from a major publisher, was on a certain engine, and was clearly behind other games on the same engine at the same era, that's of course when things will be a little bit different. Of course, my DualSense battery is low. When is the DualSense battery not low? So, we gotta start at the beginning here. We gotta start at Kamazuki Castle in Japan. What's up, 10 hours on? Suzaku, whatever, I mispronounced it. Obviously a classic. I don't know why the moon is moving at the same time, but... Oh, and I should add as well, I'm not going to be judging the songs. The songs will not have placement in these. But anyways, so obviously this is like the bog. This is World 1-1 of fighting game stages, on top of a Japanese castle. The most significant thing here in the original version of Street Fighter 2 is these signs that could break if a person was thrown against them. That's pretty cool. We hadn't seen a lot of stuff like that before. But yeah, this is a pretty great stage. You got stuff going on in the background. You've got like little like birds or bats. Not really sure what else, what they are exactly. But if I'm being honest here, I can't sit here and say like, oh, this stage is playing or whatever. No, this stage is a 10 out of 10 because it kind of really set the tone for what you're getting. It was pretty detailed at the time when it came out. With the architecture and all the stuff on it, and of course the breakable signs. That added a little bit of fun to it because you were always trying to throw your opponent towards like a sign that could be broken or whatever. So yeah, this This is we're gonna. It may sound cliche, but I will have to say this is indeed a 10 out of 10 stage. So, yeah, and good use of parallax, and yeah, this is a standard and classic. Now, interestingly, in the other versions of Street Fighter 2 that would follow, this would go from sunset to night. And I think that's kind of like a personal preference, how you guys feel about it. Night's pretty cool. I'm pretty used to that one myself, but classic stage. Sticking in Japan, we've got E Honda Stage. Now, E Honda is a sumo dude, so of course he's in a bathhouse stage. I'll be honest here. It's interesting how he's got like a sumo ring. But the most interesting part about the stage is the background. When a match is won, you see the painting on the bathhouse kind of come to life, kind of flash and show off the, the whatever he's saying in that, on the sign he's holding, and you see the rising sun art, color eyes and stuff. Submarine Bathhouse is interesting. However, I don't know if I would consider this stage necessarily an all-time classic. The same way I would say Ryu's stage was. It was, I guess, sort of unique with the sumo ring in a bathhouse, but I'm going to be real honest here. This stage is about a 7 out of 10. E Honda would of course, continue to get sumo ring or bathhouse themed stages. But I'm going to be real here. I don't think this stage holds quite the same, I don't know, visual pizzazz as some of the other stuff. It's good, but it's not amazing. So now we're moving on to Brazil. Again, it's going to be hard to separate theme from stage, because Rate the Theme would be a whole different video here. But it's pretty cool. It's got this very National Geographic vibe going on. With like this giant boa constrictor around the tree. That's probably the standout moment. A guy snapping pictures in the background. There's just generally a lot of there's a lot of buzz with this one. Mostly just because the villagers are somewhat animated, at least in the arcade version. Again, pretty good. I like the use of parallax. I think the clouds moving in the background's pretty cool. It definitely feels like we're in the middle of the rainforest here. This isn't like this doesn't feel like something they just threw together. It definitely feels iconic in a sense. It feels like a time and place. But yeah, they have like a giant fish hanging on the far right side and stuff. I will say, overall, does it hold the same sort of weight as maybe other Street Fighter stages do? Maybe not. But it's pretty good. I'd say it's about an 8. I like it. You're on like the little scaffolding above the river. It definitely, again, it's got this nice, nice National Geographic feel. But I wouldn't say it's top tier. But I'd say it's about an 8. Again, we're not rating the theme here. But that being said, this is still a pretty great stage. It's pretty much, it looks like it came right off the set of Top Gun. Where you've got all the military personnel kind of, cheering you on and whatever. It does have breakable boxes, which was, again, something everyone back when this game was brand new tried to do. Where people would basically, you'd get smacked and then you'd break the box. So it had interactive environments. Pretty cool deal at the time. I gotta be real here. This is a great stage. Probably a straight up 9 out of 10. I guess the only really thing I can kind of knock it is that the animation on the background characters is basically just them doing this. Like everyone just kind of up and down, up and down. But that's hardly a knock. It's got the interactivity. It's got the whole, this guy is American. It's Top Gun is all get out. It's got a cool jet in the background. I guess it's kind of looks like a Tomcat. Someone a little more military-minded probably would know for sure. Guile Stage! Stage, not theme. Guile Stage, 9 out of 10. Now, Ken Stage is actually based off a Charles Bronson film. That name escapes me. It definitely feels like this is a Street Fighter stage. You know, you're right at the docks. You know, right on the western edge, you know, between Japan and USA. It does have the environmental destruction, which was always a nice touch. The Capcom boat, Q in the background, you know, fist pumping. It's a pretty classic stage, so much so that they even reused it for the Destroy the Car minigame. I like the stage a lot. You definitely got like the crowd kind of hyped up. Got like these, you know, interesting like old steel ships. But yeah, I would give this. I'd honestly give this a 9 out of 10. We're not again not rating the music here, just the stage, and it definitely you can feel the sort of Ken Masters is a man of two worlds. He's from America. He was trained in Japan. He's got that bleached blonde hair, even though he's technically a brunette because you could tell by his eyebrows. But yeah, right on the border between America and Japan. Great stage. Hard Times was the film. Cool name, Battle Harbor. True.
Round one, fight.
This one, Chun-Li stage, all-time classic. The interesting thing about this stage is it really is one of the few stages in Street Fighter that feels like you're fighting on a street. But we got to give credit to the fact that you've got bicyclists going back and forth. You've got people in different types of shops. You know, some guy is killing a chicken back there. There's a barber shop. It's lively. I think that's the thing that really sells it. Even though it's not like technically the most, you know, bedazzling wow stage, you know. It's a stage that feels like one of the most authentic to what the game is. Street Fighter. You're fighting in the streets somewhere in China. This is a 10 out of 10. So I don't know how much more there really is to say here, but like, yeah, this feels like I'm watching, you know, like a kung fu movie or something. Something's about to go down here. So 10 out of 10 stage. This is a whole ass story. Yeah, you can see the family in the far left shop and the guys working in the poultry shop there. You know, some guy running some sort of delivery service with his bike, someone washing up, you know, for the barber shop there. Great stage, 10 out of 10. So, Zangief Stage, which really feels like it came out of like Rocky 4 or something. I'll give it a little bit of credit because there's a guy like totally just like constantly drinking booze. Because apparently that was 90s Japan's vision of Russia. People just constantly on vodka. Vodka drunkenski, you know. There's an old Santa Claus looking man like cheering you on. At some big old steel mill, hammer and sickle. I think the chain link fence and the chain are a little obnoxious. I'll be a little harsher on this one. I give this a 7, honestly. Because it feels like one half of the stage is pretty lively, and the other half is kind of blank. A little bland. So I'm going to be a little more real here. It's about a 7 for me. I feel if the right side of the stage was more like had a little more going on, something to like match up with the left side's hype, this might have been like a stronger rating. The drinking guy, yeah, the guy drinking kind of saves the whole thing. Dawson Stage. You know, I'll give it up for the iconicness of it, but holy God, the sound effects kind of ruin this stage. It's kind of cool how it's symmetrical with like 2 rows of 3 elements that constantly like animate, but woof, it's a bit obnoxious. Like, it's iconic, but it's also annoying. I have to give this a 6.
Round 1. Fight.
This was a really cool stage. In front of the Golden Nugget in Fremont Street in Vegas. This was probably one of the most impressive stages because it had so many different things going on in the background. You had a guy clearly who bet his life savings on the match. You had probably a pimp. What's up, Totan? Showgirls. You had a giant crowd of people like surrounded around cars and stuff. Wedding chapel. There's so much to look at here. Not too much that it becomes incomprehensible to the fight. Luckily, they didn't put any foreground stuff in there. But great stage overall. And then the showgirls, like, they take the top hat and, like, birds fly out and they hold up flowers and stuff. They throw confetti. This is a 10 out of 10 stage, chat. This is like what you think about when you think about, like, incredible fighting game stages, especially for the time. Yeah, classic cars. It's kind of got like this almost mobster era quality to it. There's a homeless guy beatboxing, like a real, like an actual Vegas experience. This is absolute 10 out of 10 experience. Have to give it up. Great stage.
Round 1. Fight.
Spain. This is a really cool stage. Probably one of the most interactable stages ever. You have this fence in the background, and in versions of the game, the fence would come down at the start of the match. So you're in like this cage fight. You got flamenco dancers, you've got people playing guitars, people just watching at like this restaurant. And it was interactable technically. Vega could climb the fence. So the fact that they already were thinking about stage interactivity 30 years ago, I kind of have to... I was originally thinking, yeah, it's more of an 8 or a 9. It is a 10 out of 10 because it was doing stuff that fighting games really wouldn't even try doing for decades later. Pretty nuts. So Vegas Stage is also another 10 out of 10, just for the fact that it's well animated, it's you know, dripping with atmosphere. But also, it was interactable by its home stage fighter. So yeah, I was tempted to give it a 9, but it's like, you gotta think about that interactivity that just didn't exist beforehand. And it's like, wow, what a cool stage. What a cool twist, too. If you made it this far in the arcade, somehow, you got to this stage, and then you see the boss character jump and climb the fence in the background. Now, the weird thing about Street Fighter 2 is that its last 2 stages were both in Thailand. Now, America and Japan got 2 stages, or 3 really for America. You kind of understand. Crazy Thailand got 2 stages. Obviously, this is based off a real location in Thailand. You know, real statue, I believe it's of the Buddha laying down. The weird thing is, in this version, it says you have this obnoxious palm tree, which I don't think was in later versions of this stage. It's kind of nice, but I gotta be real here. It's a little bland. This is kind of a 7 out of 10 for me. It's cool that they're referencing a real-world statue, but there's not much going on here. There's not even really any parallax, you know, scrolling clouds or anything. It's iconic, but it's not exact. It doesn't exactly stand out in the way other stages in this game stand out. Other than, of course, the song, but we're not rating the song. Yeah, it does give that feeling of like they kind of put a bunch of different sprites mushed together. Here's a far background. Here's a close background. Here's a tree. Call it a day. And of course, our last stage in the OG Street Fighter 2. Was this palace, outdoor palace in Thailand. Now, I feel this was a much better Thailand stage than the last one, because again, you have the destructible environments with the statues. You even have a background character get up and start yelling at you when you break one of the statues, making like an added layer to the form of interactivity with the stage. It's a pretty cool stage, but it doesn't feel like a last boss fight stage. It has a weirdness to it where like this was where you fought the big bad in this stage, which feels like a stage for a character that doesn't exist in the game. It's pretty cool because of the interactivity and the fact that the background characters like will react to the interactivity. I'll give it a 9. It's really more of an 8. But like the guy getting up and getting mad at you breaking the statue, I feel elevates it a little bit. You know, because he's happy to just, you know, sit down and do his prayer. But you break that, you know, that sacred statue, and it's like, he mad. He big mad now. So, pretty cool. Really an 8, but I give it a little bit of credit. Could use a little bit more going on in the deep background. Maybe some parallaxing clouds, but forgivable. And in ST, you know, we got different times a day for some of the stages. We got different backgrounds. So ST ran on a different arcade hardware board, so it was a little more impressive. They actually touched up some of the other stages. I don't really feel necessarily the need. I think my standings would stay on all the stages for the most part. Does the chain come down in ST? Yeah. Boom. Pretty great stage. Pretty great stuff. You can really see how they really went to town and touched up a lot of these stages in ST. I don't think that the rating would change much for them at all. As I get my face squished. But yeah, overall, the ratings pretty much stay the same. So, Cammy Stage, which always seemed a little weird that it belonged to Cammy, but it's still really cool. So you got this Scottish castle at nighttime. You know, you got like the birds, you know, kind of adding to the atmosphere. And then, of course, who could forget the crazy Aurora Borealis at this time of day, at this time of year, on this stage located entirely within this arcade cabinet. It definitely was probably one of the most standout stages of Super. And I have to give it a 9 out of 10. I'm not giving it a 10 out of 10 because I feel like there could have been a little bit more than just the birds and then just sort of like the wavy Aurora Borealis. I feel if there's a little, it's missing a little something. I know the birds fly when the round ends. But yeah, maybe if you had a butler in the background handing out steamed hams, maybe something like that. Maybe if the lights flickered in the castle. I don't know. It's good. It's really good. It's a 9 out of 10, but I don't know if I'd call it a 10 out of 10. Aurora Borealis really holds much of that stage up. So, T-Hawk Stage in Mexico, pretty good. A lot of movement with the background characters, which is pretty nice to see. But, and here's a big but, this is probably the weakest of the new stages. It does feel like kind of something you've seen a little bit before. It is different. I do love the people in traditional garb back there, people on the cart, but comparatively speaking, it's a little dry compared to some of the other stages in the game, but it's still pretty good. I'll give it an 8. An 8 for the amount of crazy movement they've got going on. It's a stage that does its job and not much more. True. Fei Long Stage. This is a stage I didn't know what to make of it at first. It's bizarre. So you're on this balcony, but the balcony is clearly overlooking this cave, but the cave is below a house or a canyon. You've got these crazy mythical creatures in the background. And the stage itself is okay. But what makes the stage sort of come alive is when you get beat up. You know, when you win or lose a round. you see all the creatures come alive in the background. And I think the big thing that saves the stage is seeing the dragons and that phoenix or peacock or whatever kind of coming alive. I guess maybe it's a stage or like, you know, like a sound stage or a movie set, because I think that is Fei Long's backstory. It's cool. It is really cool. And Fei Long would never have such a distinctive stage again. I give it a... I'm a little torn on this one. It would be too distracting if the animals in the background were going the whole time. I will say that's true. I'm a little torn. It's somewhere between an 8 and a 9. I'm gonna split the difference and call this an 8.5. Ah, DJ stage. So this stage is pretty cool. Now I'm going to be biased here. And I'm going to say this stage has something going for it in particular, and that is the color choice and the atmosphere, not just with the torches and everything. If you've ever been to a party in the Caribbean, the vibe in colors is so accurate here. It's definitely got that feeling. I've seen the night sky, the evening sky look like this. And since DJ is a sort of based off of Billy Banks, sort of like a musical, it's a really good stage. Again, this is kind of going for that more simplistic, like, hey, they're just fighting here in the middle of a restaurant or a Junkanoo. I believe that's how it's pronounced in the Caribbean. Like, even the waiters are kind of getting into the vibe here. This is definitely a 9 for all the movement, all the color, all the atmosphere in the ride. This is definitely a 9 out of 10. I feel the only thing that could have made it more is if there was maybe something a little bit in the background there. Maybe if the clouds had some parallax movement on them. Maybe if there was like a ship out there. Maybe something. Maybe that would have been a little much, but 9 out of 10, maybe a 9.5 even. And that is Rate the Stages for Street Fighter 2. Obviously, Ryu's is a 10 out of 10. Chun-Li's is kind of a 10 out of 10. Balrog's is a 10 out of 10. This is mostly a banger of a game. Obviously, it was the trendsetter, the bar raiser, the bar setter. Almost none of these stages are really bad. The worst stage is probably Dalsim's, and it's mostly because of the dang elephants tooting their horns a little too loud, a little too often. It's still iconic, but it's also not. There's not a lot going on besides elephants lifting their trunks. So it doesn't really have the interactivity. It doesn't really have the breakable. It doesn't have a lot of movement besides just elephants, trunks going up and down. It's still a good stage. It's better than average, but it's not. It doesn't win as super hard, as some of the other stages. So either way, though, this was the first Rate the Stage. Let me know what you guys think, and what game should we rate the stage for in the future? It'll be interesting to hear, because I have plenty of ideas of my own, but I want to know what you guys think. What stage or what game should we rate the stage for next? You let me know.